meeting is recording.
It is very difficult to hear.
Got all the mics on. Okay, so today's May 31st, 2023, 30 PM. Gonna call to order the Gateway Services Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. Please stand for the pledge. Quick roll call. President is Carlo Cifarelli.
Vice Maria.
Robert Lewis.
Susan Vale.
Ed Moore.
David Ruth. Are there any public comments out there though? Get to?
Chat.
Nope.
Chat.
Oh.
Carol, are you speaking today?
Andrew Johnson, Gateway Services is present.
Tim Holland, Gateway Services.
So everybody got to read the minutes over, some emails. So you may- that.
Friday, May the 5th on page 2. With respect to the comments where it says Mr. Cifarelli reported on his visit to the dog park. That should be Mr. Lewis reported, and then the entire project proposal by Mr. Cifarelli should also read Mr. Lewis. And then on the May 12th, on page 3, same issue towards the middle of the page. It states Mr. Cifarelli noted he is in favor of doing the dog park at highest priority. And once again, that should be Mr. Lewis. I believe that's how the conversations went.
Okay, so Georgia, will we need to resubmit to have those corrections made?
You can have that signed and up upon the corrections that will be made.
I had a couple of corrections on May 12th. On page 9, this is Dave Ruth. It says down in 4 about the 10th line down, Mr. Ruth reported the visit to I can't say it, Esmeralda. That should be Mr. Moore. I believe Mr. Moore did that. And then on page 10, it also says Mr. Ruth passed around the information for that park, and that should be Mr. Moore as well. What you did.
Right now, we only the May 5th, we're only opening the May 5th minutes. Link is not opening everything, Georgia.
Tim, open the agenda packet.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, we got it. Thank you.
And then this, Chelsea O'Reilly, good afternoon, everybody. These edits that you guys are making to these minutes only reiterates the point of identifying yourself before you speak.
Okay.
We move on to next item. So these are all the minutes.
I would think of
think if you want to, we probably can, and then as George said, we'll sign off on it.
Both minutes, last minutes, anybody second?
Second.
Ayes?
Yes, aye.
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 Right, so the next order is the financial report.
These were requested by you all have time to look over these.
Have a question.
Ready, you guys are
Go ahead.
on.
So I have a couple of questions.
Start with your
Sorry, this is Mariela Gutierrez. And, I have a couple of questions. We are approaching and budget year. So I see a lot of items here that most of the money have not been used. And that includes say lake maintenance. Landscaping, soccer complex, things that actually look so good. And I'm very curious why they have not been used. If we have money in the budget, why have we not used it to, for example, the solar installation in the dog park? We haven't done anything. Doesn't look that good. Parks and Recreation item, R&M, Parks and Recreation have $60,000 left. One can
So-
provide any insight as to why.
There are things on the horizon almost immediately. For one, the soccer fields are gonna take a big lump of that, where you notice the soccer fields have some money in there. Those are all gonna be redone starting next week. That's gonna run over actually what we have, the estimated cost for now. Trying to manage that, and we will use every penny of that to get the fields back in shape. That one will be flush. Mentioned maintenance.
Maintenance, Parks and Recreation. So that has $60,000 left. 60,666. Wouldn't that include, say, benches? Wouldn't that include playground that's falling apart? All that, I mean, that's a lot of money to be left over.
It is, and
Budget.
there won't be that much, but, and I run into this every year, you try and save as much to the end of the year as you can. But we would like to use it all. There may be a little left over, and that is specifically in the maintenance and repairs. However, right now, we are revamping as we speak, the fun park as much as we can. In hopes of bringing people there while this park is closed. That's gonna take up some of the budget, certainly not 65,000. To your point about the benches, yes, we can certainly order those. I try to tend to wait in case anything major comes up. This is the time where we can and say, okay, let's make these purchases.
So this is Andrew, Public Works, Director. It's my opinion that most of these things have been earmarked or allocated for, particular things. To answer your question, on the maintenance budget, I will have to dig in a little deeper and see where those dollars are allocated, so we might be able to follow up with you on where those dollars are anticipated spending. Most of the other lines you talked about are like, revolving maintenance costs that should be expended out by the end of the period. Tim mentioned, the parks, and the sod replacement, that's underway. So a lot of those projects are pending a date certain, right? So like June 1st, we're shutting down the parks to do all that sod replacement. So a lot of those funds aren't expended until those projects can be done. But if you have questions specific to each line, I should be able to dig in and figure out specifically where those dollars are allocated now, currently.
I mean, I would like to know, for example, lake maintenance, that was the first one I highlighted.
The
Ah,
lake maintenance isn't
that's
Parks
not
and
Oh,
Rec,
yeah,
right?
that's not Parks and Rec.
Yeah. Well, it's on our. Oh, yeah, Parks and Recreation below it. Okay. So the landscaping soccer complex. So I see the first line, I see 49,177. That's left over. So if we're towards the end of the year, with 113 total allocated, we only used less than half. Why? Why couldn't they replace the gates? Why couldn't do all that? And instead of running right now at the end, I mean, there's a lot of money left on the table. If you're telling me we didn't use it all year, but we're gonna use 50,000 now, within 3 months?
Yeah, I understand your point. Like I said, without having those details in front of me, I can't tell you where
Can
those.
we get details about it? Because we're sitting here and we spent a lot of time in the previous meetings worrying about how much the gate for their soccer field is gonna cost and all that kind of stuff. And here I see a lot of money left on the table towards the end of the year. It doesn't make sense to me. And there
What-
are certainly needs.
Maria, what line item were you talking about in specific? Tim, can you please scroll up to that?
Under Parks and Recreation. It's doesn't have a line number on my printout, but it says soccer complex, contractual service, landscaping, soccer complex. Then that's the last item on that page. I believe it's page 16 of 101.
Tim, scroll up, please.
I only printed those 2 pages. I'm sorry.
Okay, so the contractual, go down, Tim, I can't see it. The contractual services landscaping soccer complex. So Tim, if you scroll to the top of that sheet real quick, let me just show you guys real quick. Okay, so do you see, stop right there. Do you see in the top, it says 58.33% of year complete? So that our fiscal year ends September 30th. So we're almost halfway through and we're pretty much, for that line item in particular, we're pretty much right in line of where we should be for the fiscal year. Those contractual services landscaping line items is the Mainscape contract. So they bill monthly.
Just the contract.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what line item would you take things such as the gate out of?
The gate it could be a capital project since it's new, and or it could fall under like an R&M, like a repair and maintenance line item.
Right, but exactly, so if we would fall under R&M Parks and Recreation, and we have 60,666. Need a gate, and the gate hasn't been sold. I'm just trying to understand the process. I'm not.
No, it's okay. So I think
I'm interested to see, why are we worrying about how much it's gonna cost now? The committee's here, but yet we have money here and it hasn't been done yet.
so in taking your priority list internally, that's something that we're evaluating and seeing what we could prioritize, like the low hanging fruit, some of like the signage and benches and things like that, that we can implement with this fiscal year. I will remind you all that tomorrow is the first day of hurricane season. And so that's just in the back of all of our minds from an operational standpoint. But as Andrew and Tim have stated, tomorrow is also the closing of the soccer complex. And as you all, I hope, have seen, it's in some serious need of some TLC, which I intend and I hope staff intend to utilize some of these funds to get it up to par. Because we're not even close to par right now.
Okay. The other, I guess my point is, if we're a little bit over halfway into the end of the year, I would expect that the maintenance and landscaping would be done, so it kind of looks better all the time versus at the end of the year.
Yeah, understood, but to that
and-
point, I think if you, I hope we're not conflating the parks and recreation repairs and maintenance is specifically that. So as problems arise or as we see needs, this is Tim Holland, by the way, we can address those with those funds. But for a new gate, for instance, that you mentioned, that would be capital because we're not repairing or maintaining a gate that currently doesn't exist. So I can assure you, we are going to be spending some real money here on these parks. We're gonna be closed for 3 months. We have a whole list of items that we're gonna be addressing, and that's the fund that will come out of, the R and M.
One other clarification too, just so you understand, this report was generated in April. So you have a whole month's worth of expenses that aren't accounted for on this budget also. So we are lacking about a month's worth of
Yep.
data because you can only about, month prior.
Okay. The other item that I had, highlighted it is the under swimming pool, maintenance and repairs.
You have to go down, Tim.
Things such as umbrellas, extra umbrella, that be considered maintenance and repairs of the existing and replacement of the existing equipment that be taken out of that budget, because I see here 65,000 was allocated and only about 11 was spent. That might something that would be taken out of that. If that's the case, money's already there for the items that we discussed. And also there's an item operating supplies. I'm not sure what that entails, but out of 13,500, there is 11,348. I just browsed over and I saw a lot of large amounts that I haven't seen spent, so I'm wondering.
So I can address that. Tim Holland. So for instance, right now at the pool, we're replacing some soffit. That's 4,000. Next week, we're having partitions delivered and being installed. That's about 9,500. So none of those things in there are others are reflected here because they're not taken out yet.
So,
The POs have been written, right, Chelsea?
so what these financials show are actual check paid, written, vendor is done. What you don't see is all of the stuff in limbo. And we've got our accounting system. Laura's actually right now, she's working out some of the kinks with the reporting mechanisms. But that accounting system will be able to see, truly where we at to date if she runs a report right now. And so we're missing that window of work that's being done you're not seeing on here.
So when can we get a more updated financial report?
I'm assuming once Laura has it all in place, we can get that to you.
The financials are distributed at the second Board of Supervisors meeting each month. Truthfully, internally, we haven't even trained staff on how to do the new purchase orders in this new system yet, and that's happening this week. So this system just went live less than a month ago. I think actually just 2 weeks ago. So we're really trying to get staff up to date, and then we will start pushing out reports, critiquing them. If you guys want to see certain things, we have the ability to do that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So this is Robert Lewis. So here's my question. What is the responsibility of the Parks and Recreation Committee with respect to the budget, which was created and sanctioned by the Board of Supervisors? I don't know. I cannot grasp what our responsibility is for any of what this represents or what my colleague discussed. So if you could let us know what our responsibility is to this, that would be great. And if we don't have a responsibility, then I don't think we need to spend our time discussing the budget of the Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
Chelsea, would you like to take that?
Sure. So this committee, the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, just like the Pelican Preserve Advisory Committee, you guys are advisory in nature. And so you don't necessarily see the day-to-day spending, but if there are ideas or notions or suggestions that you may have, you make those recommendations to the board, and if they choose to act on it and direct staff, then they will. Now, part of this too is you guys keeping us checks and balances with staff, questioning, why are you overextending in the waiting pool filter housing replacement? Or I think that was the center pump and parts replacement. Why did you overspend? Part of that is keeping staff accountable too. So you have input to and next year you guys will be a lot more involved because you're still fairly new, but the big picture ideas and those priorities and initiatives we had this year we discussed, but next year definitely get you guys more in the operational components of the budget and weighing in on that.
So I would like to answer to Robert why I'm asking those questions. And this is Maria, look at this again. I'm asking those questions because we spent the majority of all our meetings worrying about dollars and cents. And I kept saying last time and the meeting before that our job is to come up with ideas and proposals. And we kept worrying about how much is this bench is gonna cost, how much is the playground gonna cost. And so I'm trying to find in the budget those dollar amounts that maybe would be part of regular maintenance. And so, and I wanted you all to see that really shouldn't worry about that. We really need to come up with ideas and spend most of our time actually coming up with ideas on how they're going to better serve the community. Because budget is here, there's dollar amounts here, they're large. Of course, I have questions that I would like them answered. I think everybody should. But again, if you think that it's not our job, then why are we worrying about how much everything is gonna cost every time we come up with an idea?
I wholly agree with you. When I signed on for this gig,
Right,
I didn't feel that we were responsible for where the money was coming from. I thought our responsibility was coming up with ideas that people in our community come to us with and say, can we do this? And then we come up with a recommendation.
exactly.
And all of a sudden, we're getting involved with numbers. I don't think that's our responsibility personally.
So Bob, you are correct, but as part of being the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, you should have some insight as to how we're operating Parks and Rec amenities. Not necessarily saying you dictate that, but you see how we're functioning and how we're operating. Consulting per se.
Yeah, but we can show up at a board of supervisors, Robert Lewis again, we can show up at a board of supervisors meeting and get the same information, or we can go on the website as any citizen of Gateway can. So this conversation is not particularly unique for our group. And so, I still kind of wonder, why we have to do this. Now, if the Board of Supervisors said, Parks and Recreation Committee, you have $500,000 in your budget to spend, you go figure out how you want to spend it, that makes a difference. We've not been given that pledge to do. So, yeah,
Spent every meeting, you go back talking about dollars.
correct.
So we shouldn't be talking about that at all. That being said, since we were emailed the budget, it's good to know how it's been spent. That will give us some insight.
This is
So-
Ed. The only comment that I have in regards to the budget is that I would assume, when we went over pricing last couple of times on things, I would assume that Gateway Services would choose to piggyback any bids that are out there by any county in the state of Florida, because Florida is a heavily piggyback state, and we should be looking at that. That really is my only comment. It's not that we should be looking at that. It's that the board should be going down that road rather than getting on the web and doing a search to see how much a bench costs.
So you are correct, Ed. We piggyback any opportunity that we can. And perfect example is we're contemplating JSM is a landscape turf maintenance specialty contract vendor that the county uses for all of their parks. If it's their baseball diamonds, if it's their soccer fields, you name it. And so we actually reached out to them to piggyback the county's contract to see how much it would cost to maintain our soccer fields, because ultimately for that specialty type work, Mainscape subs it to them either way. So I'm a huge proponent of piggybacking. Every single Lee County contract has the piggyback clause in it. And so that's normally the first go-to beyond the state, the state contracts that are out there. But to kind of get back to the point here, Maria, you're right. It's not necessarily you as a subcommittee or as a advisory committee to figure out where the money is. That's the board's responsibility. And then by implementation, it's staff, myself, Tim, Andrew, Parks and Rec. So you guys come up with the ideas. The board can choose to fund which one, all of them, none of them. And then it's staff's point to implement it, whatever that initial idea or concept is. So, but having the financials in front of you, it's just another tool in your toolbox to see, why, okay, Parks and Rec, we have not spent hardly any money on our R&M. Well, that's pretty apparent with the conditions that we have out there. So what do we need to do? We need to, spend that money monthly instead of waiting until the fields close down. So again, this is just another tool. We wanted to get it in front of you if you had any questions or ideas. We are taking, your priority list and those smaller items that we can spend that money this year and implement to help beautify our parks and rec amenities. That's what we're looking to do as well. So, but we wouldn't have had those initiatives had they not come from you all.
Thank you. This is Maria again. Thank you, Chelsea. That's the point exactly I was trying. Thank you.
Robert Lewis with another comment. So I attended the Board of Supervisors meeting that was held a couple weeks ago when our proposals were handed over to the Board of Supervisors. And I was disappointed with how it went, because the Board of Supervisors sat there saying, well, we're going to put this into capital, we're going to put this into this column, and all they know are the numbers. What they don't know is the fact, for example, with the dog park, they don't know that we went and solicited members of the community to find out what their ideas were. They were not aware that, by the way, the community supports it. They were not informed that, by the way, the dog group people, the 200 or so of them, were very much in favor of moving the dog park. And so they're looking at numbers, but they're not aware that not only the committee thinks this is a good idea, but the community itself thought it was a good idea. And I think if they had that knowledge, that they would look at it not as dollars and cents, but gee, this is probably something we need to do and we need to make it happen. And I didn't see that happened at the Board of Supervisors meeting. And so I think we have to have some sort of a voice to explain why it is that we're making certain recommendations, and that, we personally went out, solicited members of the community. We physically went and saw what the physical layout of the parks look like, and this is how we made our recommendation. Thank you.
Bob, that's a great segue. The PrAC is invited to, any of the board meetings. They're on every regular Board of Supervisors agenda. It has advisory committee updates and reports. And so anyone, it's typically the chair or vice chair, but it can be any person on the subcommittee goes and represents as designated by the subcommittee. So you all could choose today and say, Bob, we'd like you to go to tomorrow's meeting since it's a budget workshop and present these ideas. Or it can be Maria, it can be whomever. That's a great point. I know that some of the other advisory committees are very vocal, but they submit their ideas in writing and then sometimes they follow up. I will tell you that at the last budget workshop meeting, on their papers, we did document and say, submitted by dog park users or submitted by pool task force. And we did provide them the PrAC priorities list, but I would strongly recommend that you all pick somebody today to come to tomorrow's board workshop at 2:00 and be there to provide input on behalf of the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee.
I will be there regardless.
That was Ed nominating Maria.
Yeah, I mean, we're not haphazardly making recommendations on the whim. And it's like, if they ask the question, why do you need to have a gate? Well, we know why we need to have a gate. But they don't know. They look, oh, it's an $80,000 expense. Now we can't do that. But if they knew about the security issue and then, by the way, it's going to be balanced by you're not going to have all this vandalism that you ever repair. You don't have to pay for supervision, police going back there. And I just want to make sure that they have an understanding as to why it is we made the recommendations and that it's not haphazard.
You all can also provide something in writing as well. That can be included as part of the agenda packet. So either way, I strongly recommend you delegate somebody from your advisory committee to show up to the budget workshops and be there if the board does have any questions.
The next item up for discussion is going to be the 4th of July event at the pool. Saturday, July 1st.
Right, so I'm assuming you all, Tim Holland here, I'm assuming you have had a little time to look over this, but it's going to be a short event for 3 hours. Based on what we did during the Winterfest, was a 4-hour event. We had nearly 2,000 people there. This is going to be an afternoon. We'll probably have less people, so we thought it would be wise to shorten it a little bit. People did start to trickle out of the 4-hour event about 3 hours into it. So this seems like a reasonable time frame. Saturday was picked because we're not going to do fireworks. We don't have the funding for something that large at this time. Perhaps once we start to build these events, that can be upped and we can do larger, more elaborate events. So this is going to be a daytime barbecue type of a situation at the pool because everybody wants to be at the pool swimming on 4th of July. Also, it will help to bring people up to the pool who may not ordinarily come. As we stated on the last line, we will have staff there that can make cards throughout the day to welcome new guests and residents in who previously have not come. So we always try to partner with these first two here, and they're always very, very happy to attend. LCSO is going to bring a SWAT truck, and they're going to bring ice cream. Just be there for the duration. That is something that they do as a community service. South. Oh, Lee County Sheriff's Office. I'm sorry. Yeah. South Trail always likes to attend. They'll bring their large ladder truck out. They just will hang out there, let kids crawl on it, do what kids do, and show off all their good stuff. We expect to have 2 food trucks there. We've reached out to several already. One was not able to come. 2 of the others that we're familiar with have not gotten back with us yet. So we do have people reaching out continually for that. Randy's actually on that in the office over there. He's our contracts manager, and he's kind of headlining that right now. We're gonna have a water slide, dunk tank, and this is where, see, we need volunteers who want to get wet. And while there's plenty of people who would like to do that, it would be a good opportunity for any of you, if you're interested, to show up and be a victim for a while and get your face out there and let them know what it is you do.
I'll do that.
You'll do that?
I'll do the dunk tank.
Awesome.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. You
And I
bet.
don't think you want to do it for 3 hours, so maybe we can,
Well,
get
no,
some more
no.
people, but,
Well, it depends. And I mean, if our entire community comes to get me wet, who knows?
well, we'll count on that. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right.
Definitely do it.
We're having axe throwing. That was also a big hit at the, Christmas event. That stand stayed busy the whole entire time. I didn't get to do it, so I didn't see what the whole thrill was, but I imagine it's pretty fun. We have, as we scroll down, there's a DJ. We considered having a band come in, but the DJ is more practical for this, as they will be able to also act as an MC. As we have contests and giveaways and prizes and drawings, they can do that function as well. Plan on having a sidewalk art contest, and that's going to be, we're gonna have chalk, and whoever would like to volunteer can each get a 4x4 sidewalk to draw one, and I'm hoping to have one of the board members, Carol, maybe come on and judge something like that. But we'll reach out to everybody and see who's available. If any of you would like to do that as well, that would be welcome. We'll have cornhole, Kadima, which is a hand paddle game, kind of beachy idea. And of course, the staff will be there, where we will staff this in-house. We do have some volunteers that have said they'd like to be there, although I haven't confirmed yet. The Next Level Church, they always like to attend these things. It's the church, it's right next to the pool. So I'm hoping that they will find the time to do that. They did at the Christmas event. So that is it in a nutshell. If you all have any ideas that you'd like to squeeze into a 3-hour event, love to hear them.
This is Carlo, anyone barbecuing, like burgers and dogs or anything like that?
So in the past, and I wasn't here, but Elle, who works here, used to do that. She and a few other folks would get out there and barbecue and all that. I personally find that food trucks are a little easier, to be honest. Gateway doesn't have the expenditure. They can make the money if they want to, and with a selection of trucks, it's just in, out, no cleanup and no expenditure.
Yeah, it's definitely easier.
And they have a liability. Right, right.
This is Maria, and I don't know anyone that's good at it out there. I'm not good at it, but I would certainly volunteer if I was, but face painting is very popular at events like that. It was wondering if anyone can source someone to do.
We
Yes.
can look into that. In fact, I looked into that for the Christmas event, but believe it or not, there was about 5 of them in the area that I found, and they were all busy. So, for this, that's a great idea, and I will look into that. So the pool will be open for the day. That are, the majority of our seating will be there. We'll have some picnic tables out. We do allow food on our deck as long as it's outside of the 4-foot perimeter of the pool. So that'll be nice for people to be able to eat and enjoy that atmosphere while they're there.
Anybody else?
I put my sailboats out on the lake as a demonstration in this event and hope maybe some take an interest in our community activity.
I personally think that would be a great idea, although having gone in front of the board with that before, I think we would have to ask them about that lake in particular. But I do believe that's a nice idea.
Either there or have a table that we could just set up.
Or sure, a table, and yes,
Just static display. would be fun.
yeah, absolutely. I'll count on that.
Tim, I may have missed this. This is Dave Ruth. The water slide. Could you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, specifically the one that we've actually got Acosta to bring out. It's a double water slide, and you just run it with a hose. It's blown up. I should start with that. It's a blow up water slide. So they roll it in, roll it out, blow it up, put a hose to it, the water goes down, and the kids can slide on it. It's
Into the pool?
no, this will be out in the
Just
field, edge
outside.
of the parking
Okay,
lot. Yes,
okay.
yes. Yeah, and that's where the dunk tank will be as well. Everything activity wise will be off the pool deck. Right, we don't want any slipping, falling, anything, like that. All
Right,
activities will
that's-
be out there, yes.
Robert Lewis again. With tomorrow being the beginning of hurricane season, our ham radio group here in Fort Myers has a display where we show up at various places talking about emergency communications in the event like of a hurricane. Would we be able to have a small booth for that or a table?
Not only can we give you a small booth, I'm sure we can put it right next to the police.
And the
or
fire.
Sheriffs and the fire department, and I think that would be great.
Excellent,
Yeah.
thank you.
So Bob, will you, reach out to those folks
Yes.
and let them know the dates, and we can
Yes.
send them a copy of this if they would like, so they have it. Does anyone have any more input?
Machine. Got it, cotton candy machine, maybe? Get all the
We
kids sugared up.
we could do that. We had the last, Christmas event, we had cotton candy and popcorn. I was more or less thinking that that could be a sticky situation, if you would, around those
Very
swimming pool.
sticky.
So I would lean towards popcorn if anything. And those machines are reasonable. I believe they rent them out for about $125 plus the actual food that goes in. I will look into that. It's not a bad idea at all.
The more fun, the activities and things like that for the kids, I think families with kids, that would make it more successful. And this is Maria.
This is July the 1st.
Yes, sir, on a Saturday.
This is Susan Vale. I just have a little question. What about pets? What about, can you bring your pet to the outside of the pool? Are they going to be welcome? Outside, not
I-
inside.
Don't see why not.
Okay, right.
As long as we make sure they clean up their waste. Yeah, we've never detoured anyone from bringing their dogs up, just not inside of the pool or cats or ferrets or whatever. Yes.
As
Yeah,
long
I
as
know.
the leash time.
As long as, yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
This is Ed. I'm assuming you're going to do a flyer or some kind of communication like that. When do you plan on having it done so that we HOA presidents can send it out to everybody?
Almost immediately. We were kind of waiting to see if you all had some more input onto this. Once we fill in these little blanks here.
Beautiful.
Randy, our contracts manager, who is also our public information officer, he'll get that out. And once again, we do have trouble or issues sometimes when we forward things to the presidents, and I know you always do yours, but they don't necessarily
Right,
disperse it.
right.
But we'll get that out on Facebook, and he can send a link to each of the presidents.
And Ed, if you or anybody else within your community, any of you PrAC members, if you want to hand out flyers, we can print out some of these flyers to your neighbors or to your neighborhood.
There you go.
Hand them out.
Ours-
This is Maria.
Yeah, my community doesn't have a president right now.
We can go hand them out or put them in everybody's mailbox. I mean,
Okay,
it
wonderful.
would help spread the word.
Robert Lewis here again. Is there a way that the members of this committee could get name badges or some identification? So when we're there, people will know who we are, or do people in the committee not want to make themselves available?
I'm sure we can swing that, but that's up to you if you want to be noticed or not.
We can make some,
You
we can,
Test.
we can make some paper name badges with your name and the Gateway logo on it. If that way you can and put it in like a sleeve or something and you guys can pin it to yourself. We'll give you Tim's business card to hand out too.
Okay,
That's a great idea.
All right,
well, at least they'll say thank you for putting us on.
that's it. Thank Carlo,
All
what are
right.
you?
So
Someone had recommended having more frequent PrAC meetings.
Well, hold on, before we jump. Sorry I couldn't make it over there today, guys. I want to just touch on a couple things since I missed you guys at your last meeting. And so we've got the budget workshop tomorrow with the board and And then it's also on their regularly scheduled meetings starting at 3. So they can't take action at a workshop, but they can give direction. And then that's why we have the follow-up meeting at 3, so they can, take formal action on any items that they wish to do. So again, I strongly recommend, if I know that there was some discussion, but I don't know if anybody, I think Ed nominated Maria to go, but definitely show up for that tomorrow. We have to set the high water mark by June 15th. And what that high water mark is, we can't go above that, but we can come down. So normally, we throw everything in that we can possibly think of. And then we have a couple months to iron out what, if anything, we want to keep in and or remove. So the June 15th is a very important date. And I anticipate us having more budget discussions in between now and then. But there's that. And then Tim, did you tell them at their last meeting about Tori pulling out?
No, I think that happened after our last meeting.
Okay, you want to fill them in on that?
Yeah, so you were all here, I think most of you were here when we had a presentation by Tori Ulmer, and she's a swim coach here locally at Gateway. She proposed coming in to do lessons at the pool. We were in negotiations for the charges and everything, and she was fine with it, but it turns out her insurance became a sticking point. It was just very, very expensive, and so she unfortunately had to back out of that. So we did just couple of days ago, I believe, reached out to another gentleman who lives here in the area. He had expressed interest several weeks ago when I met him. So we reached back out to him. He is with, I believe they're called Swim, maybe Swim Florida. Name escapes me right now, but he's a certified coach. And we did extend the offer to at least speak with him about his interest. So perhaps that's still on the horizon.
Robert Lewis with a question about that. If you were to make that person some type of a part-time employee of Gateway, couldn't she do it? And then the insurance would be covered by Gateway in general.
Yeah, I think that was a question that we addressed earlier, and I don't remember the exact reasons why, but we decided that that would not be the best way to go.
Bob, yes, that's possible. And then the district would be hosting those classes, and recouping the whole revenue that would come from it instead of the 70-30 split. And that may be a path that we pursue if all else fails with, some of these other instructors. But I think the end goal is to try to get somebody at our pool that can come in and that can teach young children, adults, whomever, how to swim. And I think that idea is still on the table. But ideally we'd like for it to be an outside person right now. And maybe that's something we can talk to the board about for next year.
Ed Moore, I would like to piggyback on this. I have a colleague that is a certified diving instructor. And we were talking about possibly doing diving or snorkeling classes for Gateway at the pool. Is that something that we should talk about, or?
I would
Reach out.
advise if they have insurance and can meet the regulations and the document requirements, I don't see why there'd be a problem. Although you definitely want to let them know our pool's only 6 foot deep. I know
Right,
traditionally
right.
those are 8 or 10 foot deep, but for beginners or something, I think that would
That's
be fine.
exactly what it would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ed, that's a great idea. Have them reach out to Tim and we can send him the contract document.
Perfect.
So one other thing that I want to mention, tomorrow is our public hearing for our fee schedule for next year. And I just want to bring that to your attention because if you have not seen it, I strongly recommend that you take a peek at it. It's on tomorrow's agenda. And I say that because the board took action and recommended that for the soccer complex in particular, we have quite a few leagues that have been operating out on our soccer complex for many, many years. We have longstanding relationships with them. And so the board had given direction for us to try to look at our expenses and our revenue. And for us to try to get to at least a 50% revenue of whatever our expenses are. And so they set that goal to happen over 3 years. And so incrementally over the next 3 years, there will be rate increases for the leagues renting the soccer fields, for both, the lights and the actual field rentals, on top of us moving to Facilitron. We have gotten a lot of pushback from parents through the leagues, upset that we're raising our rates. And so I wanted this committee to be aware of that. The district, the residents of this community have been subsidizing the cost of maintaining those fields for I don't know how many years, probably since they've started. Understand too that Parks and Rec amenities are never going to be 100% revenue generating. So there is some subsidization of amenities, because they're for the betterment of the community, but at how much? And so the board made that decision that 50% is all that they felt that the district and its residents should be subsidizing within the next 3 years. So that is a big change for some of the leagues. We're crunching the numbers to truly see how much the rates are going to go up, but we have to recoup some of the expenses of these fields.
Robert Lewis with a question. When representatives of this committee show up at the workshop tomorrow, are they going to be afforded the time to make a presentation? I want to make sure that they don't show up and just sit there and never get recognized.
As long as you're there and you make the request to the board, I'm sure Flavia is sitting in the room listening, but the board runs the meeting, and if they so choose to invite you up there to speak, considering it's a budget discussion, we can tell them that you're there to speak on behalf of the PrAC. And if they invite you up, which I'm sure that they would, you could speak at that time.
Okay, so it's similar to a Board of Supervisors meeting where they fill out, the slip and hand it over to whomever, or just raise their hand? I'm
You
just
can,
asking the logistics of how it will occur.
no, you can fill out the slip.
All right, does anybody else have any additional comments or concerns? No? All right, it's 3:23 and meeting's adjourned.
Well, nope, hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
A digital PrAC meeting, option.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, we didn't do that. Oh, yeah. Yes, there is.
We can back up to the parks and rules and regulations here. So this was the main, on the top, the overview. Several people expressed that it was worded improperly, and it was. So that's been reworked. That's the only major change that is in here. If you all can take a look at this whole item, I think. I'll scroll through it for you slowly.
Can you scroll up for just a second?
Did everyone review this? So,
Can you scroll up just a tad? Okay, you're
right there.
Um, and regulations, no smoking, vaping, tobacco, yada, yada. How about no soliciting sale of any items?
Well, I think that if we are inviting food trucks to come in, we wouldn't want to
Yeah.
detour that.
Oh, yeah.
And for the time being, until we decide what's gonna happen with concession stand, I think we'd steer away from putting that in there.
This is Ed. Question that I have, that I see on all of them, and I'm not a smoker. I mean, occasional cigar, but, how do you plan on regulating the no smoking, vaping, or tobacco in the park? I mean, I think that's just,
Perfectly honest, the leagues are here from 6 to 10. We have a limited presence, because Parks and Rec staff leaves at 7 from the pool. They'll run through or sometimes not, but we do rely heavily on the league presidents and the coaches that are there. I've coached baseball for 6 years now, and I know that all the coaches who are responsible will make sure that everyone who's there does follow the rules. It's hard to do when you have 400 kids, but we rely heavily on them. And we have put up smoking areas in the park. For instance, just outside of the pool, where you get in the gate, there's a smoking area there. People will smoke and they will do what they do. So the best we can do is try to give them an option of a safe place to do it.
okay. And speaking of the one at the pool, can you move over towards the bike rack so that when we walk through, we're not getting hit with cigarettes? I'm just saying.
So it's out by the front gate now where there's an oak tree. Before you even enter the parking lot is where the
Oh,
smoking
okay.
area is.
Okay,
About 2 years ago, it was near the front gate where you were speaking of, but yes, that's been moved.
Robert Lewis here. Wouldn't it be better if you just say smoking, vaping, tobacco permitted only in designated areas?
We could reword that to say that, yes.
Because
I like that.
I think that would be a better way to put it, because one way says absolutely not, and then you're saying, oh, but by the way, we do have exceptions. So
Mhm.
if you reword it designated areas only.
Very good.
And I don't know if you want to make the same for alcoholic beverages.
I would say
No.
negative on the alcohol.
that, yeah.
We have enough issues with craziness going on without introducing alcohol in the situation, yeah.
Most of them come.
Shall I continue down? Do you all have any more?
Like to read, this is Maria, but I would like to review that a little.
Okay. Review.
Today. The entire.
Oh, so you would like to take some personal time and go over it?
And I know Susan said you can.
Yeah, I had
do it,
looked
so,
at it. It's looking. fine.
Okay. I will say I
I mean, it all looks the same pretty much until you get down to, I think it was the pool. Oh, there was one on the pool that, this is Ed, that I had. It has never made sense to me in my life. And that is a dad can't throw a ball to his child. in
So
the pool.
that was and I tend to agree with you, but we cater to a wide variety of age groups and different types of people. There is a certain group of people, I don't mean to name people, but, there are people who don't like that. We have everyone from lap swimmers to exercisers to people who just enjoy floating. And it could be troublesome, and I understand why some people don't like that. That was a rule that was instituted before I got here, but I have to say, I don't disagree with.
Well, I broke it every time.
From a
I
safety
mean-
perspective, yeah.
My kids were little.
If you all would like to discuss that amongst yourselves and, let us know how you feel about that.
I would like to review it because it seems slightly different. This is Maria, from the one that I had brought up and I started to go through last meetings ago. So you have the opportunity to read. If everyone,
I don't believe anything was changed on here other than the said, overview in the beginning.
That's something else on here about like no dash. I do,
It looks slightly different. I mean, it looks like.
We would hope, I would hope. I was able to get the correct version on here. There have been many versions. I do believe this was the latest one though, with changes other.
So while you guys are contemplating this and reviewing this over the next, until your next meeting, one of the things that I'd like you guys to start thinking about is sponsorship opportunities. And how could we utilize sponsorship opportunities to help offset some of these ideas that we have? If it's, putting in the victory gardens or whatever the name is that we called them. Is there sponsorship opportunities there where Joe Schmo Company LLC would pay for the boxes and donate the material and or the money for said boxes, or benches? I know we've talked about benches for the dog park users and how they would be open to donating the funding and then having a little plaque with their dog's name on the bench. Something as big as if we redo the soccer fields, because the drainage and the irrigation isn't the greatest, and or the lighting, is there sponsorship opportunities for companies to sponsor those fields, or an individual field? So just kind of keep that in mind as you guys are looking at the big picture, and what improvements we want to do in the future for our community without breaking the bank.
Robert Lewis here. Do you know for whom Sherman Park is named after? Who is Sherman?
I believe he would, Randy, I know Randy did some research on it. I believe he was either, I think he was a supervisor here at the district.
Because one thing we could do is find out if there's any company that would like to have naming rights for the park for a specified period of time. Similar to ballparks and football fields. I mean, that could be something that could be looked into, and it could be maybe there's a major soccer company out there that would like to have they'll give $100,000 and they could have their name put on the park for a specified period of time. Or Nike or whoever.
Yeah, there's definitely, just like I said, start to think in that type of sponsorship. What would we be willing to provide sponsorship opportunities for? Maybe it's at our existing facilities or at the commons with some of the new ideas that we had. Maybe Purina wants to sponsor Pups in the Park, Pups in the Fun Park. I mean, just brainstorming some ideas. So food for thought.
So would it be up to Robert Lewis here? Would it be up to this committee to do that, or would it be for the district PIO, who I believe is Randy? We certainly wouldn't want to step on his toes.
I think it's a joint effort. I think more heads is better than one. And if the committee, and maybe this is something to sell to the Board of Supervisors, with some of your ideas, and we could put some feelers out and see if there's any companies. Maybe there's a local gateway company interested in sponsoring something. I'm not sure. So, I mean, if you've seen how many people are at that soccer complex on a busy night, talk about visibility.
Yeah, the other thing this is Andrew, the other thing I'll mention that other committees, subcommittees are doing is like that sort of task, you could dish that out to somebody on the committee to kind of spearhead that, and maybe or they have some connections that they can start working that process and then bring that back. Have for ideas.
Good idea, Andrew.
Bob, you already did have some ideas in previous meetings about sponsorships that were great, so.
Yeah, with all the businesses that are in Gateway itself, I mean, could be able to,
Imagine so.
restaurants.
Well, I think part of it too is creating, you know, a sponsorship program, and at what thresholds do you get, you know, the gold, silver, platinum,
Right.
you know, diamond status, you know, if you donate X amount of dollars or so. I think that's all part of these types of discussions that we can start to have.
Staff can provide you all with the numbers of attendees we have, which would help when you're going forward with.
Yeah, Robert Lewis, I think perhaps that one of the things we should look at pretty quick would be naming rights, assuming the dog park's going to get moved, getting naming rights for that park. And like you said, you know, there's Purina and whoever else might give naming rights and come up with a number, say, you know, 100, we have 200 active members, they're buying stuff. $100,000, we'll give you 5 years or 10 years, whatever.
Good.
And then figure out for soccer also. You know, apparently you have grass, and I don't know who provides the grass, but if it was Scott's Lawn Service, I could probably help you there. But
Have any
So you
comments?
guys are going to take these park rules and regs and take them back, and hopefully at the next meeting, we can wrap these up and get them in front of the board.
Yes, please.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Now, Carlo, shall we move down
Yeah,
to?
additional meeting. So who thinks that we should meet?
Question. This is Maria. I would like to see a workshop in between our meetings where we can brainstorm further ideas, just a more casual workshop.
General.
Just, yeah, to take each item we have suggested and brainstorm more ideas
So what
about
do you
it
mean?
and get down the nitty gritty with more details, and maybe we can brainstorm for each item, sponsorship ideas and things like that. That's what I think.
This is Ed, and I like that idea. It's going to depend on the month for me because I have busy times, and I mean, right now, I can't do an extra meeting. But I would from time to time. And I think that's a good idea. I just don't have the bandwidth.
Carlo, we did not touch on the priorities. We kind of went right to the budget portion of that budget discussion.
Oh,
a little
okay.
bit, But this was the last iteration of the priorities that we came up with in the last meeting. And I think, Maria, this would be, unless there's any changes, something really for you to take with you at the next.
yeah, I'm sure she'll do a great job explaining
Mm-hmm.
why we think these are.
School day. I tend to
Okay,
think that we
good.
did a pretty good job with the price. This is
Mhm.
Maria. I personally, I would enjoy it.
This is Susan. I'd like to have a little clarification made because I missed the last meeting. I was out of town for personal reasons, but on the message board, what I was trying to say initially got a little confused. And what I'm looking for is like a consultant that's a communities outreach for activities, a consultant to help blend, get all the information on the communities and find out what the real needs are. I personally think soccer is like the biggest used amenity, but you know, the billboard is getting people there, but to get a consultant to help us get more traction for the pool and things like that might be. So that, you know, a good idea. So that's what I really meant when I was trying to say it 2 months ago. So I'm sorry I wasn't able to be here. I just couldn't.
But I do remember you saying that, and yes, we kind of got carried away and went this direction.
Yeah.
However, I think your idea is great. I mean, we use consultants for everything from arborists, to
Mhm.
landscaping, and we certainly don't know it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, something you all would like to put in there, discuss. Easy insert.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's a good
Absolutely,
idea.
because we can't depend on the HOA presidents to disseminate the information. Some of them won't, some of them will.
Yeah, and it's kind of generated from when, let's say Pelican Preserve, they have really sophisticated amenities, but they also have a club manager who gets the word out about the yoga class or the pottery class. Not that we have those things, but if there's a way to get the communication out better, I think you'll have better participation. And then that would support the things that we're asking for. The community would be behind us better.
Yep.
Not that
I
you know,
agree.
what we're asking for isn't right, but to get
Yeah.
more.
Yep.
So essentially, you're talking about
Totally
an
agree.
activities director.
They're called a community outreach activities consultant. That's the official name.
Somebody to
But
start
it's
the
marketing.
process,
Yeah, and
And then-
bring tools for us to do.
Bring some ideas that possibly were overlooked. Yeah, and I do know some
This is
people
more-
in that area that we can contact who would at least either, if not contract to do it, at least put us in touch with qualified people.
This is right, and this is a permanent employee, employed by Gateway Services, or would that be on a need basis? Would that be,
There should be like a 3-year plan. I mean, if it's gonna be a consultant, because, I mean, as our plans, you know, as we grow,
so that would be a permanent employee, is what you're
Well,
suggesting?
I think Ed is right. You need to have them start with a 3-year, but with a goal that they start it and teach us how to do it ourselves. And then we cut loose after 3 years. That gives you a chance to see if it's really going to work or not,
Mhm.
and then how you would support it.
So I think Maria's asking, if I'm understanding correctly, if it will be an in-house employee versus a contracted consultant.
Consultant,
Consultant.
because
And
we,
they can make a 3-year plan and then revisit it periodically.
Yeah.
right, exactly, and they train us, but train who?
Yeah.
To be here today, train the staff, so, I mean, it needs a little bit more.
All right. But
No, I agree, it's a great idea, but we just need to.
That's part of what they'll do is tell us how they foresee that.
right,
Robert Lewis here. To amplify on that, assuming that one of the wings of the new administration building is also going to be public area, community rooms for crafts, woodworking and whatever, somebody's going to be needed to coordinate, you know, the utilization of those areas. And that would probably also fall under the category of the activities director. And I would imagine that would be an employee of the district.
When we get to that point, you
Yeah.
may be correct in that.
So Maria, like we talked about earlier, see if you notice on this budget sheet, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping, guys. How we put ops next to some of these line items in yellow. Those are some things that we should move to our operating budget for next fiscal year. So there's one item, and I think there's potentially 2 items. So the 23.5 for the bocce ball, cornhole, horseshoes. I threw horseshoes in because I'm like, that's another kind of game that, you know, everybody, well, at least I used to play up north. And then the Victory Gardens, those 2 items could be thrown into the ops budget for next year. and or this year if the funding is available, and we could prioritize some of those items, low hanging fruit.
Thank you. I did
So-
want that.
Again, these meetings are your meetings. We're here to provide assistance and guidance. If you want to meet twice a month, if you want to meet 3 times a month, if you want to meet once a month, whatever you choose, let us know. If you feel the need for more and or less, I know some committees choose to take the summer off because they have snowbirds. Some committees choose to meet twice a month. It kind of all depends on what you guys are working on at the time. I think a lot of the discussions can continue, but a lot of more in-depth discussions will occur, really once the budget is set, and then brainstorming some of these big picture ideas, thinking them through. I know this was kind of sprung on you all, and you were a recently formed committee, but and part of your meetings is if you all have ideas that you want to discuss, let us know. This isn't just staff driven, and that's the whole point of setting your next meeting agenda is what do you want to see? Because if there's an item like you want to paint, I don't know, paint the nets, the goals black, then that gives staff time, a month's time to figure out how to paint the nets black and come up back to you all with, hey, here's how we figure out we would accomplish this. So, and the same thing goes with you guys. If you have an idea, and you want, each other to chew on it over the next month, bring it up. This Bob submitted this, idea of potentially meeting twice a month to discuss some of these priorities more in depth. Again, we're here to serve you all in this community, so you let us know what you want to do.
That's a good segue into the,
Yeah.
board meetings.
Who thinks we should meet more than one?
I have a suggestion. That's a great point that Chelsea made, that a lot of people take summer off. It's vacation time, right? Of August, I will be away in summer. I would suggest, maybe have a workshop, in June and maybe a second meeting, and then maybe take 2 months off, in August, September, and then budget place.
I agree, Robert. Major function.
Get in there.
Yeah, I don't think.
I can't in June, but I like the idea.
I can't meet in June either, so, but I think the idea is right. So,
Well, does anybody think we need more than one meeting in June? Or one in June and then take July and August off?
September. I agree with that.
So,
I guess you'll need to vote on
Yeah.
that.
so who's second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. So we'll have the last meeting. What's the last?
Last one,
June
28th. 28th.
6/28 at 2:30. That, is this room available? This room should be available on that day?
We will check. Georgia, are you there?
I am.
Can you look on, Facilitron or calendar and see if we have the boardroom available for the last Wednesday in June,
It's gonna be June 28th.
28th?
Yes, that's already scheduled with PrAC.
Okay.
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 That's all right. So we didn't change anything.
There you go.
Thank you.
Have anything else up or? No? All right, well, 50.
Thank you all. Did everyone,
Thank you.
initial the,
Yes.
Yes.
attendance? Okay, thank you.
Have these done.